Can I stop you, because it's beautiful what you're doing, but I have something like the danger with Haydn is that it becomes facile. In other words, it just plays itself. And the question is it actually a fast virtuosic piece? And I think it may not be. Now, we never know. The metronome wasn't invented in those days. And it never occurred to these composers to put any such information down. The metronome was invented in Beethoven's time, became essential for Beethoven because he had very unusual tempi. And there was the only way he could convey it to the audience, the players and the musicians and the conductors, was by a metronome, most of which ignored him and didn't do it. But it wasn't important for Haydn. And it wasn't even important for Mozart, although I'm sure there were moments when he wished he could have had a metronome, because, for instance, the Marriage of Figaro overture, those are eighth notes. Later on, there are 32nd notes in the violins, which is simply impossible. It's unplayable. But people ignore the fact that it's way too fast. It's a marriage. They're happy. They're not rushing away. You know, they're enjoying themselves. So, but he didn't have a metronome, so he relied on the musicians to look through and say, oh, 30 seconds, we better slow it down. But the conductors don't take a notice because they want to make an impression. But no bassoon in that time could have played at that speed anyway. But that's well, that's an additional reason. I have to tell the story because I've never told it. It's one of my favorite stories. My father was studying in Germany, and the teacher was teaching about 3 dimensions. And you can only see in 3 dimensions if you have 2 eyes, because then it's the place where the 2 eyes meet, you can see. So, but it was a classical high school, so the teacher added a little classical information, and he said that's why Cyclops, the giant, couldn't hit Odysseus with the rock, because he only had 1 eye in the middle of his head, so he couldn't judge the distance. My father was a cheeky 11-year-old and said, but sir, hadn't Odysseus put out the eye of Cyclops, so he couldn't see at all? And the teacher said, yeah, das kommt noch dazu. That's an additional reason. So it's an additional reason here. But I'm wondering whether the key here is allegro moderato. And you're not playing it moderato at all. So now this is between you and your coach, and you're going to have to go back and think about it. But I think that this is a different piece, and Eunha, you're racing around like a virtuoso pianist, but I'm not sure that's what's called for in a moderato piece. So should we try and see if we can find some freedom? Bum pi da da dee, da dee da dum pi da. Those little surprises are going to come out more. Should we just try? It's an experiment. You'll see. You don't have to do it. And it's not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of let's experiment, see what happens. And think of some other allegro moderato movements. And I love you. And so the music does that. Should we try that? 1, 2, 3. beautiful, beautiful. It's a different piece. It feels different. There's another element which is quite interesting, which is this would have been written for a very different instrument from a large Steinway concert grand, or whatever this attempt at that is. It would have been written for not a harpsichord, but probably a fortepiano. And a fortepiano is a very light, very expressive instrument, probably more expressive in some ways than the modern piano, but it's very light in texture. And there's a very intimate quality which comes with gut strings on the cello and the gut strings on the violin. It's a very different kind of sound. And if you're going to go to play Shostakovich and Tchaikovsky, and then you play Haydn, I wonder whether you couldn't even get closer to the sound of that instrumentation makeup, which would be even lighter and very much changed in the piano. So, Eunha, have you had a chance to listen to a fortepiano? You have, playing this. It's a little surprising because it's not as legato. But would you try once again from the beginning with a slower tempo, and imagine you're playing not a big Steinway, but a rather delicate. And notice he writes staccato assai. It's something quite different. 1, 2, 3. Yes, don't rush. Don't rush. Once again, 3, 4. Yeah, could you do with that that semitone thing? Be a little bit more a little more operatic with that. Try once again. It's coming along. It's coming sounding very interesting. 2, 3, 4. Yes. That's the right light. Shh. Take your time. Finish. Nice. And then it goes through there. Shh. Beautiful. Beautiful. Great. Well done. Well, it's of course up to you now to see which way you go, but I think more is going on when it's slower. There's more variety. It's less automatic pilot. So you'll get a chance to choose. One of the ways we decide on tempi is to compare it to other movements that we know, and those Haydn Allegro moderato is a tempo that he seems to use, and this would be another example. Well done, and Eunha, fantastic how you changed from the Shostakovich to this. It's like completely different instrumentation, as if you're playing different instruments. And you've taken the audience into another world where they're all hankering for the 18th century in Europe, where everything was in order. They knew the hierarchy, everybody knew how to behave, there were formal, the musicians all went into the back with the servants, everything. Haydn had a wonderful life. And he was a very happy man. And then that happiness comes out in this music. So it's interesting, we didn't do the Tchaikovsky, but that's another whole world. And for each piece of music, you have to have a different sound and a different gestalt, a different being, in order to play those music. And we don't teach young people dance anymore, but when I was young, we learnt dances. We learnt the Viennese waltz, we learnt the minuet, we learnt the elegant dances so that we would know how to behave. And you notice the founding fathers, they're always sitting like this. They have a confident view of the world, and that's the world you're describing here. What a privilege we have as musicians to enter these worlds and take ourselves and make ourselves available to them, not the other way around. We don't look to the 18th century to come into our world. That's why I resent all these performances of Mozart operas in modern dress. Who needs more modern dress? We should be invited back into that era and experience it as fully and as richly as possible. So well done. What an interesting morning. Just trios. Lovely. Thank you for coming, and good luck and we want you to win the competition. Well done. Beautiful. Great.